Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be getting started shortly. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is G. Lamar Stewart. I'm the Chief of Community Engagement here at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. I want to welcome each and every one of you to our monthly virtual community town hall. Every month, our office hosts town halls for residents across the city of Philadelphia. This month, we're hosting two town halls, one for residents in Northeast, and Northwest. We actually had that town hall this morning. And this afternoon, we're hosting this town hall for residents in the South, Southwest, and Central Central Division in Philadelphia. So we welcome you. Every month, our topic is a different topic. This month, the topic is support and services for seniors. So on behalf of DA Larry Krasner and our entire executive team here at the DA's office, we thank you for joining us. And we're extremely grateful to have a distinguished group of panelists joining us today for this conversation. So I'm going to introduce them, and I will ask that each of them just give a quick greeting on behalf of their organization or their agency, and then we'll go from there. So today we have Marielle Lorenz from the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly. We also have Mr. Roger Moore from the Philadelphia Corporation for the Aging. We have with us today our friend, Officer Tracy Lewis from the Victim Services Unit at the Philadelphia Police Department. We also have Assistant District Attorney Jim Delafour, who is the Chief of the Private Criminal Complaint Unit at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. We also have Assistant District Attorney Alex Blumenthal, who is our Elder Justice ADA here at the DA's office. And shortly we'll have joining us First Assistant District Attorney Judge Carolyn Timmon, also from the DA's office. And so thank you all for being here. I would ask that you would just give a quick greeting in that order: Marielle, Roger, Officer Lewis, Jim Delafour, Alex Blumenthal, and Judge Carolyn Timmon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marielle Lorenz, and I work with the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly. We have a number of various programs benefiting older adults. Our general mission is to promote the well-being, autonomy, and rights of older adults. And specifically, I supervise the PAVE program at CARI, and our role is to provide victim services to those who have been impacted by a crime in Philadelphia, and we can connect them with various support services and helping them to navigate the criminal justice system.
Hello, my name is Roger Moore, Philadelphia Corporation for the Aging. I'm the Community Relations Manager. Community Relations, we're in the department is our Community Engagement Department. And what I do is supervise our 3 outreach coordinators, and we service our Asian community. We service our Latino community. We also service our clergy and interfaith community, also our African and Caribbean community. And those 3 outreach coordinators provide outreach for people. They provide resources. We have meetings, we have conferences during the year. Now that COVID has hit us, things have changed and we're moving forward and trying to reach out to our community in different ways now. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm anxious to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Officer Tracy Lewis. I'm with the Philadelphia Police Department Victim Services Unit. Our role in the unit is to serve as victim advocates for the police department, which means that we have the responsibility of helping navigate people who have been victims of crime through the criminal justice system, but also to help provide services and resources for, again, anyone who's been a victim of crime. And in a lot of ways, that also means connecting them with other agencies that can do so as well.
Hi, I'm Jim Delafiore. I supervise the private criminal complaint unit here at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. We handle applications for private criminal complaints, criminal charges for misdemeanor charges that occur where the accused is a known doer, the complainant knows the accused. It's usually a neighbor situation, maybe that ends in a simple assault, or a neighbor situation that involving criminal mischief, which is vandalism. And usually police who respond to the scene as a result of a 911 call will refer people to the private criminal complaint unit when it is a misdemeanor crime, where it is a known doer and there's no additional investigation that needs to be done by police or detectives. So that's what we do here at the private criminal complaint unit. Glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Alex Blumenthal. I am happy to be here. I'm the Elder Justice Supervisor at the DA's office. And in short, what that means is I prosecute cases with elderly victims. Hear more from me later. I'll try and keep it short, as Lamar asked, but essentially just try and give that special attention and be specially assigned to the cases that need it, and make sure that our elderly victims get a just outcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Hemen, and I'm one of two first assistants to Larry Krasner. One of the areas that I oversee is the Elder Justice Unit, and I am very involved with that unit, and I have a special interest in it because, of course, I am a citizen in that class that we call the elderly. And I'm very fortunate that I have ability to get around and have people helping me. And I'm concerned that other people who are less fortunate than I are able to have the services that they need so that they can live full lives, even at the age of being in the 80s or 90s, or more than that, since we've seen evidence of that lately. I'm very happy to be here today and to participate with you to tell you about the many services that we have at the DAO that are particularly centered on the elderly.
Thank you all for those introductions. And just before we go into our questions, I do want to acknowledge we invited several elected officials. And we've had several RSVPs. We see some are on now, as well as or reps from their offices. So we acknowledge the office of State Senator Anthony Williams, Councilmember Alan Dom, the office of State Senator Shreve Street. I'm glad to have you on, Desmond. At the office of State Rep Jordan Harris, the office of State Rep Elizabeth Fielder, and glad to have you on, Patrice. The office of Council President Darrell Clark, and also the office of Council Member Helen Gim, and glad to have you on, Charlene Samuels. We also believe that Donna Clement from the office of Council Member Derek Green is on with us as well. So glad to have each and every one of you on, and whether you or the elected are on later on, right about 10 minutes before we end, we'll ask that each one of you give a remark, or the elected official themselves. So we look forward to hear from you very soon. So our first question, we're going to ask that ADA Blumenthal and Roger Moore would respond to it. It's an introductory question. Please describe the services and resources that you and your organization provide to Philadelphia seniors. what makes your organization unique compared to other DA office units, city agencies, and/or nonprofits in Philadelphia?
Okay, thank you. PCA provides a lot of different services in the community in our city of Philadelphia. PCA, the services, all depends what the need is for an individual. The need is very important when that phone call that we receive from our helpline. So I always encourage people to call our helpline at 215-765-9040 to talk to an intake worker concerning what your need may be. We have our PDA waiver program that you would be assessed to see what your level of care is, and they will explain to you that process. We have our in-home support program, which is not long-term care. It is consumers that are 60 and over homebound and have no long-term care needs. That also is an assessment that takes place. In-home support is run out of 5 in-home support sites in the city of Philadelphia, and they're run out of senior centers. We also have our senior companion program where people go out to the seniors' homes to see what their need might be. They provide maybe a light meal for them. They play cards, they have conversation with them. Right now, they're not going into the homes, they're doing phone calls. PCA now is doing assessments at the homes or nursing homes and hospitals. We went back to that this September 14th, and we will continue to do that. Some consumers don't want people in their homes, so we would do it over the phone. So, and we also have our Older Adult Protective Service Program at PCA, and you can also call that number, the 215-765-9040, if you see neglect, financial exploitation with consumers or someone you might know. You can always call our Older Adult Protective Service. And like I said, we have a number of services that I'll probably talk to later on, but PCA has a number of services. And when you talk about unique, I think what is unique is that we can assess for long-term care, and we can also assess for brief services, someone that just might need a meal, transportation, or a senior companion. So we do an assessment for long-term care consumers, and we also, with our in-home support program, you can be assessed for short-term brief services. And that is a number of things. Brief services could be just somebody needing a fan, help with bills paid, home repairs. That can be a brief service that somebody might want. And they would get that service and then they would close the case. But meals are the priority that a lot of people need now. And that's some of the services that PCA provides. And like I say, in order to get more information, please call our helpline at 215-765-9040 to speak with a representative, an intake worker, to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Lamar. So my unit is the Elder Justice Unit, and it is focused particularly, as I said, on elderly victims, and also to some extent on those who are disabled but may not be elderly. And the question becomes, what is the need for such a unit? And I think District Attorney Krasner and First Assistant Temin recognize that elderly victims face certain challenges, and a bit of what Mr. Moore alluded to in discussing the services provided. There are, of course, certain challenges they face in being victims or witnesses in the criminal justice center. And this can be something very simple that, you know, when you hit your 70s and 80s, it's not so easy to sit in a criminal courtroom all day and wait for your case to be called. It can range to other physical disabilities, like being hard of hearing is something I run into a lot, being unable to come to court, being unable to report or properly account for what may have happened. And then, of course, there's specific legal issues that arise, particularly with elderly people. I don't mean to be morbid, but there's always the danger that an elderly person may not be able to complete the case, and often they can become unable to testify or die. And the defense knows this and often can drag out the the case with an elderly victim. So what's particularly unique about my unit is we try and solve these problems. Whether that be something as simple as having the time to talk to an elderly witness and realize there's one good ear that you need to speak into and stand right up next to that person at the preliminary hearing and address them, or that they need special assistance coming to court. We can contact with our support services and our drivers to bring that victim into court, or contact with Carrie, make contacts with Carrie, which provides invaluable services to senior victims, or with PCA, who might have knowledge about the person's disabilities and about their availability. I can remember a recent case where PCA said, no, you can't call the victim directly. She doesn't have a phone, but call her next door neighbor. You can get in touch with this victim. And now we know that this person can come to court because the thing is that the elderly victims and witnesses make excellent witnesses often. They're very willing to come to court. They're responsible, they answer their phone, they just need some help. And they often make very credible witnesses too, when they're given the accommodations they need. For instance, instead of coming to a normal list room, they might come to what we call the protracted room. And so if I know in advance that a witness is going to need some extra time, I can put that case in the protracted room where it won't be one of 50, but one of 1 or 2. And so you can come in, testify, and leave. And that also, my special assignment gives me the ability to make sure the cases are not continued. And so that I know I can do my very best to know that if a witness is actually going to come to court, that that witness is going to testify that day, and that there won't be a defense continuance or a continuance because a police officer is unavailable or because the court is closed. Of course, that's not always perfect, but it's what I can do. There's also, as I said, specific legal issues. One of them is preserving testimony. If there is any indication that the witness may not be able to come and testify later on, you can do certain things to make sure that that testimony can be used later in court. The testimony can be video recorded, and if you turn over certain documents to the defense, it can hopefully be used later at trial. There's also specific statutes that apply only to those who are elderly. Some of them are enhancements to a felony charge. Can raise a misdemeanor to a felony or raise a felony higher because the victim is 60 years old or older. This is particularly true in a lot of fraud cases. There's certain mandatory minimums that can apply. And there's, sorry, my son is drifting around behind the screen. Speaking of not elderly people. And then there's certain crimes too that are specifically designed to address the needs of elderly victims, such as neglect of a care-dependent person or the abuse of a care-dependent person. So, and you're gonna have to be quiet. So with that special assignment, I can address those issues better and know them and if I may say, be an expert in them so they can be properly addressed. I'm sure there's more to say, but I have a feeling I'm about to be interrupted. So I'm going to turn it over to the next panelist.
Thank you so much, Alex and Son. Next question will be for First Assistant Timon. The question is, what kind of criminal activity typically targets or affects senior citizens? How does your agency help protect seniors and or seek justice on behalf of seniors? And what can seniors do to make themselves safer?
Well, the kind of crimes that mostly affect seniors usually are related to finance, to money. People see seniors as people who are easily fooled and easily tricked into giving away their money. And they don't, people who prey on seniors are not looking necessarily for seniors who might seem to have a lot of money. They seem to prey on middle income or lower income people because these people are less likely to be aware of more sophisticated schemes that are going on. And so the people that are affected by these crimes are people who are really going to have to do without something if we don't put a stop to that and get either get their money back or at least stop it from happening again. And people who prey on seniors also tend to do it a lot. They have a scheme and they try to work that scheme time and time again. So if we can find out about it and stop it, we can actually prevent a lot of it from happening. And the kinds of things I'm talking about are, for instance, home repair or that kind of thing is very prevalent, where a contractor, unfortunately, will come in and offer to do a repair for what seems to be a reasonable price or an especially low price, and then take your house apart and leave without completing the work and disappearing, so you can't get your money back. And there are lots of ways that you can protect yourself against things like that. One of them is by not paying the whole amount up front. And the other is by doing some research to find out who the contractor is, what other people he's worked for that you may know. You can go and look at some work that he's done if you find that out. The other kinds of things are just people who pretend to offer you something. It's good to remember that if you get an offer that sounds too good to be true, it's probably not a good offer. If you're assailed like I am with constant spam calls and constant texts from people trying to give you things for free, the best thing is to immediately hang up when the spam calls or immediately delete the text of that nature. They're usually not legit, and you're going to be taken for a ride if you answer them. The other kinds of crimes that are specifically related to the elderly are elder abuse and abuse by caregivers. That is a very serious problem, and it should be reported to us immediately. We have a hotline. I believe that we've given the number to Lamar. Lamar, do you have our ECU hotline number and our ECU email that you can call that number or email to that email address if you think you have a problem, and we will see that it is properly investigated either by the police or by our office. So I hope I've answered the question. If somebody calls you and pretends that they're your grandson, call your grandson and see where your grandson is. It's likely that that person on the phone is not your grandson. Well, I hope that's been helpful there. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop there.
Thank you so much, Judge Timmon, for that response. It was extremely helpful. We've also added that hotline information into the chat feature. Next question will be for Officer Tracy Lewis and Assistant District Attorney Jim Delafiore. How does your organization assist seniors who are victims of crime or mistreatment? And how can seniors report wrongdoing to your agency? I'll ask that Officer Lewis to respond first.
So we're the police department. We're a law enforcement agency, and we're an investigative unit as well. So I mean, we try to assist seniors at every level from the ground floor up. From the moment that we send somebody out to take a report, we make sure that they get all the details. They take a thorough report, that they bring it in to detectives if necessary. And again, as the victim advocates, we try to walk through all those steps with seniors to make sure that they understand what's going on, because dealing with police departments, dealing with district attorneys' offices, they're on your side, but can also be very, very confusing and overwhelming, especially if you've never dealt with anything like the court system or criminal justice system. So we try to make sure that they understand everything that's happening, why we're asking for the information we're asking for, why it's necessary to interview with a detective, why it might be necessary to look at photos, whatever the case may be. And as we progress through that system, we try to bring in outside agencies that we partner with who can specialize in helping those seniors, depending on what their needs are. So if they need legal representation, we may talk with Senior Law Center. If they have issues with assistant living or with victims compensation, we'll talk with Mariel's organization, Carrie. We work very closely with Carrie all the time. They're a great organization. We work with PCA for various problems. If they're veterans, if they have issues that are specific to, they're being veterans or domestic, even seniors, domestic abuse. We try to bring all of those organizations in to make sure that they're getting a thorough cache of resources available to them, because support matters, resources matter. You can report to us in any way. You can obviously 911 is the easiest way. We'll send somebody out to you. If you don't want to have somebody come to your house or wherever it is that you are, you can come to us. You can walk into any district and you can report a crime or an incident. If you're not sure that you even have something to report, maybe the judge was just speaking about frauds and spam emails and phone calls and things of that nature. Maybe you're not sure what it is. You can call us and we'll talk to you about it and let you know whether it is something that should be reported, because maybe it's not, but maybe it is. And if it is, we want to make sure that you go through that process and let us get involved before it becomes too late.
All right, Jim, you have to unmute, buddy.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So how can a person report wrongdoing to the private criminal complaint unit? Usually the first step is the person has called 911 about an incident. The police will respond, and usually the police end up referring people to us. They say, contact 1425 Arch Street. That's usually the first thing that that happens with an incident being reported to the private criminal complaint unit. When people contact us, they usually have a what's called a DC number from the police report. We usually ask for that DC number when people contact us, because then we're able to pull the police report off of the police computer system, and we can take a look at what the police report says about the alleged crime and whatever it was. But just to give you some phone numbers here, Lamar, if you could put them up on the screen. When we reopened in July after the coronavirus, the private criminal complaint unit, we started having a 24-hour hotline. So anybody can call and leave a message 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the message a return call will be made from the private criminal complaint unit within 2 business days. That hotline number is 215-686-9848. Again, that's 686-9848. We also have an email address. You can email us, and somebody from the private criminal complaint unit will get back to you within 2 business days. That email address is da_pcc@phila.gov. And then you can also contact the private criminal complaint unit during regular business hours, Monday to Friday. Our regular business hours phone numbers are 215-686-9864 and 215-686-9863. As far as how does the private criminal complaint unit assist seniors who are the victims of crime or mistreatment, if there's an issue, if a senior comes to the private criminal complaint unit and it looks like it's a matter that needs further investigation with police and detectives to follow up on something that's more than just a simple misdemeanor, then I will usually refer people to contact Alexander Blumenthal over at the main office here at the district attorney's office. Sometimes I'm able to reach out to the detective division or the police district where the alleged crime occurred, and try to work with police detectives and police officers to look into the case a little bit more closely. Every police district has what's called a community relations officer and a victim assistance officer. Every district has one. I very often reach out to community relations officer and the VAOs to see if they can possibly drop by or call a victim if there's a situation that looks like it needs a little more. It needs to be looked at a little more carefully. There's maybe more to it than just meets the eye. We try to coordinate some more of a police response with the CROs and the VAOs as well.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Officer Lewis, for that response. I'll ask Marielle Lorenz to respond to this next question. What do you think is the most important thing for seniors to be aware of during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you for the question. I would say one of the things to be aware of, and I think many of us can relate to this, but particularly seniors with COVID-19, is that if one is particularly feeling more stressed than usual, or if they're feeling more isolated, that is a legitimate feeling to have. And I'm hoping that with this town hall and hearing from the various partners, that to let our seniors know that there are people here that you can reach out to if you're needing of assistance. So I'm hoping that just having this today sends that message. And the other thing I would would particularly be paying attention to is maybe scams that can arise with COVID. I remember kind of early on when COVID had hit, folks would call our organization and say maybe they had got an email saying that their COVID package is ready from CVS. That's considered a scam. And let me share our organization's phone number because I forgot to do that before. So you can always call our advocates at 215-545-5728. And so as I would say, I mean, there are those scams to be in watching for, but there's still the continuation of other fraud and scams, as Judge Timmon has highlighted as well. So those were some things in particular that I would be watching out for.
Thank you so much. The next question is from Claire from Northern Liberty Civic Association. I'll ask Roger Moore and Mariel Lorenz to respond to this. What are the best methods of doing outreach to seniors during the pandemic, many of whom are staying home more because they are at higher risk, and many of whom do not have internet at home, use of the internet less frequently, or may find it difficult to navigate the internet? So question pretty much is, what are the best methods for doing outreach to seniors during the pandemic?
Okay, I'll answer that. Thank you for the question. You know, things have changed drastically because of COVID-19, and PCA has working on different ways of reaching out to our seniors. One of the ways is what we're doing now with virtual Zoom meetings. So what we're trying to do is reach out to our clergy, all the community. We have, as mentioned earlier, that we have 3 outreach coordinators, and the one does the clergy and interfaith, and also does African and Caribbean, and we have our Latino, and we have our Asian. So what we're going to be trying to do to reach out to them, so when they attend the virtual, or when we used to have the meetings at PCA, we would ask them to make sure that you give this information to your congregation, to your community people, so that you would know what is going on. Another thing we have done now is have a newsletter out that comes out every other month now. And we have a lot of resources in that newsletter trying to reach people in our community. So we have certain people that we will send this information to, and we let them know, please provide this information to your neighbor, to people in maybe the supermarket, in stores. So we're trying to do things different because of COVID-19, and we can't do it the same way. So PCA has to get creative and look outside the box more than we've ever done before, and that's what we're trying to do. So you'll be hearing more things about what the changes will be coming with PCA, on how to do more outreach the way we're doing it now, and the way we used to do it won't be happening until things change with COVID-19. So we try to reach the community. PCA has never closed as far as doing assessments. We've always, since March 18th, the doors weren't open at PCA, the building was closed, and we worked remotely, and we were able to reach our seniors by calling them up, senior centers. reached out to people. We started a meals. The senior center was closed, but we had grab and goes where people could come and get a meal, and we wouldn't turn anybody away. We would provide a meal for them from our senior centers in Philadelphia. So PCA is, like I said, is trying to change because of COVID-19 and trying to do as much outreach as we can in a different way. But we are still reaching our seniors on a daily basis.
Thank you. I'll add, certainly Roger highlighted some of the challenges in terms of doing this outreach. And Carrie is also trying to utilize the web more and social media in doing our outreach to older adults and their families. We are looking to revamp our website to be more informative that way, because we know that is going to be a place that many folks can try and access. We're also utilizing Facebook and Instagram and Twitter more often as well to try and highlight the services and programs that we have and some other resources that are available for Philadelphia seniors. And we do have a YouTube channel as well. We have done webinars, a number of them. We did one, we've been doing actually a series of webinars recently around the process of getting enrolled into community health choices. We did a webinar, we have a restorative justice program for older adults that we're partnering with Good Shepherd. So we've done a webinar on that, so that you could find those on our YouTube channel. We're also still recognizing that not all older adults have reliable internet that they can access. So, you know, those internet availabilities are only so good. So we are certainly utilizing our senior center network because we're finding that senior center managers and coordinators are very much in touch with the seniors who regularly visited those centers. Also for senior housing, more often or not, there is a coordinator or a manager that is connected to that community. So we are getting the word out to seniors that way. I should also mention that Carrie is also the ombudsman for Philadelphia, for part of Philadelphia nursing home residents and long-term care residents in different facilities. So one of the challenges for the ombudsman program in trying to get information to residents about their rights or assisting them is actually trying to connect with peer counselors so that those resident counselors would be able to disseminate needed information to residents. And we certainly, Roger highlighted some of the community outreach efforts as well with the various groups that PCA outreaches with as well. So we are certainly, this is definitely a way of thinking more creatively in how we can do our outreach and just trying to get the message out that certainly that there's help available for folks who need it, and that they can utilize us to access various programs.
Thank you both for your responses. I just want to make note here or make mention, and thank you, Claire, for your question. I know Kristen from First District Town Watch, you had a very similar question. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and the question that you raised as well. Also grateful to have Andrea Custis from the Urban League of Philadelphia on today. So glad to have you on, Andrea, and we'll ask for remarks from you here a little later during our conversation. So the next question is coming from Larita, who's a Philadelphia resident. And I'll ask Alex Blumenthal to respond. What's the best centralized resource or directory for seniors to learn about services available to them?
I think it's PCA. They're the organization that is really central to elder services in Philadelphia. We have people like Carrie and the DA's office and the Philadelphia Police Department and the Senior Law Center. They all do specialized work. But PCA, because of their doing adult protective services and all their other services, they either provide the service themselves or they know exactly who to refer somebody out to. So I think I did this in the morning session too, but if I were asked this question, I would just turn right around to Mr. Moore and direct the inquiry at him, because they are really great at knowing where to direct seniors.
Thank you, Alex. I
No,
just
go
wanted to say that our website is pcacares.org. That's pcacares.org. And you can find out a lot of information on our website. And also you can call the number that I gave you before, the helpline number. But PCA, even if we cannot provide a service, we will provide you with other resources in the community that you can call and make contact with in order to help you with whatever situation you might be in, or a family member or a friend. So it's important to have the website and the phone number, because some people don't have the computer and can't get on the website. So we try to let the community know to call that helpline number, and we have trained intake workers to take that number. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. And thank you, Alex, both for that response. And as you all can see, Special Assistant Seth Myers, he's adding all the contact information or any resources that are being mentioned into the chat section. So feel free to utilize that information being provided. Next question, I'll ask Officer Tracy Lewis, as well as Roger Moore, to respond. It's coming from Lisa from South Philadelphia Victim Services. And Lisa, always great to have you on and good to see. Are there any services for seniors who may be living alone and could use opportunities to engage socially with other community members?
Yes, I'll answer that. Our senior program, Senior Companion Program, is a program that you have a senior companion, or you can be a senior companion. A senior companion is you would go into the home. Right now, they're not going into the homes. They are calling their consumers up. Each senior companion has consumers that they work with. And when I say work with, they would go to their home and have conversation with them, maybe play cards, take a walk with them, the conversation is a big piece with our senior companion program. So there are senior companions that get a stipend on every 2 weeks, that they get a stipend to be a senior companion. And then we have senior companions that they go out to see. So yes, we have the senior companion program. Some things will be changing because of COVID-19 right now, but right now they are calling their consumers up and having conversation with them. So like I said earlier, you can call the helpline number and get more information on our senior companion if somebody wants a senior companion or become a senior companion. That's that 215-765-9040 number. So we still been operating a little differently than we used to, because before the COVID, we would go out and see our consumers and have contact with them. But right now they're calling them on a consistent basis and keeping in contact with them. So this program is a good program for someone that's home alone, and you can get that. You can get a senior companion through our waiver program, through our in-home support program, so that people are not being alone with no contact with anybody. Thank you.
So we've utilized the Senior Companion Program in the past as well, and it's an excellent program. I know a lot of people that have gone through the program, both as recipients of companionship and as companions themselves, because there's a lot of everybody wins with that program. It's so difficult right now though, because social distancing is so important, and everyone still has to keep a safe distance from one another. So it's really tricky to try to figure out that companionship piece, especially if you're talking about a population who may not have internet access, or really, even if they do have internet access, do they have access to cameras and webcams and the type of setup that everybody else has? If they do, I know our department, our community relations officers, our district community relations officers are very engaged in trying to keep that connection going with people. We can't do a lot of the things that we used to do. We're not able to do safety fairs and events in the way that we were, but they're doing them virtually now. And again, I understand that there's a challenge there for some people to try to get onto those things where it just may not be accessible or feasible, but for those who are, you can go on to, if anybody's on social media, if you follow any of the districts on social media, they always list what it is that they're doing monthly and weekly, and they do try to have just kind of community engagement events so that people do feel connected again, you know, and there are other resources for that as well. NAMI is a mental health organization that we work with, and they do a lot of they're focusing hard right now on connection for people who are feeling distance and perhaps sheltered from other people. And again, I apologize, I do not have their contact information, but I can pull it up and find it. They're working very diligently to try to get that connection back up again, and they work through Department of Behavioral Health too. So there are resources out there for people. It's a hard time for everybody, and I can only imagine that it's especially difficult for seniors because they seem to be getting the worst of all of this right now. So again, it's important for that connection.
Thank you both. The next question. The question is from Patricia Birch from Catalyst for Change Church. And good to see you, Patricia. Please send Pastor Keon our greetings. I'll ask Marielle and Roger to respond to this. Has the pandemic caused a reduction or delay in services to the elderly? For example, with agencies such as Corporation for the Aged.
Well, PCA, when this pandemic started in March, there was a big delay because we could no longer do assessments in nursing homes, hospitals, even in their homes. So a delay did occur. We've been working on that delay because some things have changed where we're allowed to go into the homes if the consumer accepts us to come into the home. And if they say they don't want us to come, we will do it over the phone. So the delay also starts with the waiver program once the assessment takes place, and then Maximus comes in and does the financial piece. So there is a delay. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not a delay in that process, because that process is a process, and they have to gather financial information and then get the pick a service coordinator, and you know that is a delay. But like our in-home support program, there's not a delay in that. They could call up today and someone will be able to do an assessment in 24 hours. And that's a program that is no long-term care services, 60 and over, homebound, and have no long-term care services. But PCA is working on the delay of assessments each and every day, trying to get out and do the assessments, and also doing the assessments over the phone. Which we have to do now because some consumers do not want people, our assessment workers, in their home. So it's a delay, but it's not a great delay where assessments are not being completed, because assessments are being completed and people are receiving services. But like I said earlier, continue to call our helpline number. If you need any services or whatever you might need, please call the 215-765-9040 and speak to one of our intake workers. Thank you.
I would say that for Carrie, in our ability to deliver services for older adults and their family members and in the community in general, there has been some areas where COVID has impacted our ability to deliver services, and then there's other services that we are able to continue to deliver those services, and COVID has not impacted that. I would say what has not really impacted our ability in terms of service-wise is that, for example, with the victim advocates that I supervise, when we are referred to victims of crime, or if they've contacted us, we are still able to help them navigate and try to access various services and supports that are available to them. So for example, if that's the Victim Compensation Assistance Program, where, for example, if someone had lost cash or they had medical expenses that they had to pay for because related to the crime, and some other expenses that potentially could be paid for, we're able to help guide folks through that application, and that gets processed in Harrisburg. we also have a counseling program for those who are victims of crime, and the counselor has been able to talk with people over the phone who want to access the program, or if they have the capability to meet through Zoom, they can do that. We also, in terms of some of our other, oh, and I should mention our Elder Security Fund as well, which is if someone's window or door or lock has been broken because of a crime, we have a security fund for older adults who need those repairs done. We have contractors that we work with that they can go and do those repairs. And that's certainly something that could be referred to our office for. I will say one of our other programs that's at CARI is the Apprise program. That's our Medicare insurance counseling program. We are going to be, volunteers are planning and staff are planning to still counsel and provide education with Medicare enrollment coming up October 15th. They are gearing up for that season to, certainly it's going to be a little different because we can't meet with folks individually, but we'll be continue to communicate them via phone or, through Zoom. I will say that the impact that with COVID has impacted our work is around ombudsman, which I highlighted earlier. It's much more difficult for ombudsmen to go to facilities and meet with individuals who are residents of those facilities and make complaints. It's been more difficult to talk with those folks. Certainly we're trying to do that over the phone or in other ways, whether that's talking to their family members, just because it has been a challenge. And I would also mention too, with we also, with our victim services program, we do assist even long-term care victims of crime if they're needing of assistance. And that's been more difficult to meet with them as well. We try to talk with them over the phone if we can, but we know that there can be a number of challenges in doing that, maybe because of lack of privacy or they don't have their own private phone to connect with them. So I would say that COVID has impacted some of our services, but in other ways, we've been able to continue our services as usual.
Thank you so much, both Marielle and Roger. The next question is coming from Joe Alkis from 3rd District PDAC. Joe, great to see you and thank you for all the work you're doing in South Philadelphia. Just before I ask you a pre-submitted question, I know you just sent us a comment in the chat feature, and the comment was, how do we get this? Well, question was, how do we get this information to seniors who may not have access to the internet? We appreciate that question. Our office here at the DA's office, of course, we're engaging regularly, sometimes daily, with civic associations and community-based organizations, some that are led by seniors, some who advocate for seniors. And so we're going to make sure, as we always, we'll make sure that the YouTube link, as this is being streamed live on YouTube, we'll make sure that the YouTube link gets to all of our civic associations and community-based organizations, as well as faith-based institutions, so that the information that's shared today for those who are engaging most frequently with our elderly population, that these resources will be made available to them. We also invite the media to participate in our community engagement programs, such as our virtual town halls. And so sometimes they will pop in, and if for whatever reason we don't see them, we make sure that we share the link with them as well, so this information is getting out. And then we're regularly calling and engaging with, and I say we, I'm talking about our community engagement liaisons, some who you know. They're engaging very frequently with just stakeholders and residents, whether in person or by phone. And so we'll make sure that we share this information as often as we possibly can with those who may need access. But I'm going to ask that Jim Delafiore, Alex Blumenthal, and Judge Timon, if you can respond very briefly to, if you can, to this question from Joe Alkis. In many cases with elder abuse and with victims of fraud and scams, when by the time the crime is discovered, it can be too late to compensate the victim or prevent the physical injury. Particularly with COVID-19, with the COVID-19 pandemic, seniors may fall victim to a scam or fake cure before realizing it's fraudulent. So I would like to hear about what the DA's office is doing proactively to prevent fraud and sexual or physical abuse of elders. Jim,
Well,
Alex.
what we're doing to prevent it is in the nature of these community Zoom programs and other informational programs that let people know what to look out for and what to try to protect themselves from. Basically, what our major work is dealing with the crime after it occurs. But we are trying, through getting out information to the community, to hope that we can provide information so seniors can protect themselves from fraud. When we find out that there's a fraudulent scheme afoot, we try to get that information out to seniors through the senior centers and other contact that Alex has, so that they can recognize a fraud when it comes to them. But it is a constant problem. It's something that we work on all the time. And I must say that Lamar, you and your community outreach programs are one of the major ways that we are able to communicate that.
I'll chime in too. As First Assistant Temmons said, this is always a problem because the criminal justice system is reactive, I guess, by its very nature. And so as district attorneys, we work to address the crimes. Our primary work is to prosecute the crimes that have happened. I will say that I've had some success in getting restitution even after the crimes. If somebody has been prosecuted, that person can be required as part of their sentence to return the money either all at once or in a variety of payments. I've had some success with that in theft cases, contractor fraud cases, all sorts of cases. So there is a remedy for people who've been scammed. Obviously, there's often the scammers have disposed of the money or don't have it, or not rich people themselves. But at the same time, these scammers will often, to avoid some more serious consequences the criminal justice system can dole out, like incarceration or conviction or felony convictions, they are often willing to pay that restitution, even up front if they can. I have had some success in getting that, particularly because, as you say, as the question indicates, this is really one of the primary concerns for the victims, is to get some of their money back, because seniors are on a fixed income a lot of the times and they can't really afford these large outlays. We do also participate in a lot of these programs, especially ones that Lamar sets up. I participated in one that the Pennsylvania Department of Banking set up with Senator Sharif and Representative Burgos. It was called the Scam Jam. It was another, it was on Facebook Live. So we try and get the word out too, because prevention is much better than prosecution. I also sit on the Elder Task Force to Prevent Elder Financial Exploitation. We sit on that with CARI and PCA and a variety of financial institutions. And I can say the financial institutions are working very hard too, because they understand that some of their best customers are the seniors, and that's where a lot of the money is. So they're working really hard with the seniors to make sure that withdrawals from their accounts are authorized and the money is actually going to the right place. So that's both what we do in a reactive sense and in a more proactive sense to try and make sure these cases don't come to court, because of course that is, there is always some damage that's been done and it's hard to remedy. Thanks.
Jim, if you want to give any remarks on that question.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to follow up with the first assistant and Alex. Yeah, when a senior comes to the private criminal complaint unit, when there's maybe allegations that there is some kind of ongoing crime being committed, a bad situation going on. I'm thinking maybe a couple times I've heard from relatives of a senior person who's maybe in assisted living or in a rest home, or even just, at home and not able to get around much. And maybe the people from out of town they're not able to get in touch with the person in Philadelphia. They think maybe that the spouse or the person who has power of attorney, who might be local here in Philadelphia, is maybe having some undue influence and maybe perhaps not treating the person right. I'll reach out to police in the local district and detectives. I'll also refer those people who call with those concerns. I'll refer them over to Alex so that he can put whatever kind of resources that he has available to him to work on the problem. And we'll try to address it that way. Private criminal complaints, like I said, we don't deal with ongoing fraud type situations that occur because those do require pretty extensive investigation from detectives. But for those of you wondering, if it's a simple basic misdemeanor like a vandalism that occurs to a senior citizen, or God forbid an assault or something like that, it's a 2-year statute of limitations. So you have 2 years to report the incident to the police and then come to the private criminal complaint unit about applying for a private criminal complaint. Thank you.
Thank you all for responding to Joe's question. Next question is coming from Greg Berceroni from First District PDAG. I asked Alex Blumenthal to respond. He says, I'm interested in knowing more about how senior citizen victims and witnesses are transported to and from scheduled criminal court hearings, especially when transportation requires door-to-door transportation.
Sure, I work with that all the time. Well, I did when the courts were doing more in-person hearings. The DA's office does have a van service. We can provide door-to-door service for any kind of victim or witness who is unable to come to court themselves. And that just has to be arranged through that employee. So what will happen is either I or the victim advocates will speak to the victim, discover that person needs transportation service, and then arrange for a pickup. In some cases, the van is maybe a little too crowded or only runs at certain times. We can have detectives, whether they be police detectives or the district attorney's own detectives, will transport a witness in cases where it's a real hardship for that witness to maybe spend time waiting for the van or waiting for the van to come pick that person back up. And we can work with Carrie to ensure that there's somebody to meet that person at the door or right at the curb, I should say, ensure that that person has a wheelchair if need be. And the van does have, we do have access to the resources to call for medical transport as well for people who are very ill or just need medical attention even when they're at the courthouse. So I have had people transported down by medical services. And I believe that's something the DA's office is willing to pay for. So if we have a willing victim, if that person can be brought to court, we will bring that person to court. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. We have 2 more questions before we transition into our final remarks. And so I'll ask that Roger and Marielle respond to this next question. Sorry, could you guys hear me there? So we have 2 more questions. Sorry. We have 2 more questions before we transition into our final remarks. And so I'll ask Roger and Marielle to respond to this next question. It's coming from the pastor at Mount Calvary Baptist Church. What services are there for homeless seniors that do not involve residing in a shelter before receiving services?
Well, I would say that as far as PCA, an assessment can be done. It all depends if they're in the shelter. Now, if they're just on the street, we wouldn't be doing an assessment rate on the street. If they were in a shelter, we could try to complete an assessment. But you can always come into our office at 642 North Broad Street, and it's open now. and someone would, from the intake, would talk to that individual and inform them about personal care boarding homes and our dom care program. And our dom care program consists of a dom care provider that wants a person that would want to open their house to someone that is in need of housing. And you would go through PCA with that, for that program. PCA would assess that home, that individual, get a background check, and they would have to do, I think it's twice a year. They have a training. They have a training before they can even open up their dom care home. So you would have to come into the PCA's building if you are homeless to see what services can be available to you through by being homeless. I would suggest that an individual would come to the building, 642 North Broad Street, and talk to one of our intake workers. But we do assessments in shelters, trying to find placement for individuals that need housing. Marielle?
Thanks, Roger.
Mhm.
So before, when advocates were working more in the office, we're mainly working from home now, but we can still talk with those who are experiencing homelessness. This is a population that we've often have worked with, and advocates can talk with those who are experiencing homelessness and discuss the barriers that might be there in terms of trying to access housing. So whether that may be providing them the housing list that PCA has information for, we can certainly discuss that process and how they would apply for housing. We can also talk to them about, well, what are some barriers that might be preventing them from applying for housing? So for example, do they need an ID? Do they need their birth certificate? So it's connecting them. So it's, in some instances, we're able to, if it's something online that we can request, we may be able to go online and request that, or maybe connecting with some area partners about how those who are homeless can access those vital documents that they would need when they're applying for housing. In the meantime, if they are experiencing homelessness, we can talk to them about services that they could access in the meantime. So whether that's, for example, trying to access a meal, whether that's Senior Center, Broad Street Ministries, a number of different services. If they need access to a clinic for health services, who we could refer to them. If they're having issues with Social Security, if they needed proof of income, we can, refer to how they can get that statement. So we can work with those who are experiencing homelessness. They don't necessarily are residing in a shelter. I mean, we can certainly let them know if they're interested in that information. We can also guide them, try and help them access information that they are in need of so they can access more permanent housing or try to meet some other unmet needs as well.
Thank you both for that response. Our last question I'll ask Officer Tracy Lewis to respond to. It's coming from Ryan Taylor from State Representative Jordan Harris's office. The question is, there's a senior home at 21st and Dickerson, Casey Holly Apartments. PHA, which is used, it's a PHA home, so which is used for criminal activity and that causes seniors to live in fear. What can be done to address this issue? I've reached out to PHA Police and the Philadelphia Police Department, and nothing has happened.
So if we're talking about it's a PHA building. I don't know what the circumstances are there. I don't know what it is exactly that's happening there, so I can't really comment too deeply on that. What I can say is, obviously, if there's something that's happening, that's an emergency, call 911 so you can get the police out there. If this is an ongoing problem, it's not being addressed and it needs to be addressed. What I would suggest is for Ryan, maybe Ryan can call me personally and I can talk about this with him in depth and try to find out what the problem is exactly that's happening out there and see if I can connect him with the right people to look into it, because it's very possible that they may currently be looking into it. I don't know. I don't know what the actual situation out there is, but I would love for Ryan can call. My number is 215-685-1158. If he wants to speak with me about this, and again, I can try to find out what's going on out there, or connect him with the person that can absolutely help him or work on it with him, because there already may be something in play out there that I'm not aware of, and maybe the neighborhood isn't even aware of, because sometimes it can be very low key. But again, if there's something happening where it's an emergency, if there's a threat to life, if there's something dangerous going on, 911, absolutely call 911 so we can get out there right away.
Thank you, Officer Lewis. I'll also mention to that question from Ryan Taylor, and please send our greetings to State Rep Jordan Harris. June 1st of 2020, just a few months ago, our office, DA Krasner specifically, launched a new initiative in collaboration with the Philadelphia Police Department. It's called the Gun Crimes Strategy and Prevention Collaborative. Essentially, we've assigned 12 assistant district attorneys, as well as a couple of community engagement liaisons to police divisions across the city of Philadelphia. There are 6 police divisions. So in each police division, we have 2 assistant district attorneys and 1 community engagement liaison focused on gun crime, but violent crime in general. So we have 2 assistant district attorneys that are working down in South Division. And so Seth Myers will add their email address, names and email address into the chat feature. But Assistant District Attorney James Lafferty is one, and the other is Assistant District Attorney India James Flemister. We'll be sure to connect them with you, Ryan, and your office to talk more about the issue that's happening down there at 21st and Dickinson. Then perhaps we can be an advocate and help connect you with the appropriate law enforcement agencies down in South Philly. I believe 21st and Dickinson, that should be the 17th district. So I know Captain O'Donnell and his team have been really proactive in the area, addressing some of the issues going on in that community. So we would certainly be willing to serve as a liaison to connect you with our law enforcement partners in South Philly. So thank you so much for that question. So those are our questions. I'm going to ask, we have several community stakeholders and elected officials or their staff that's on. And so we're just going to ask that they would just give a remark. We're going to start with Urban League of Philadelphia. We know that we have Andrea Custis, who is the CEO of the Urban League of Philadelphia. So Andrea, we're going to believe you've been made a panelist now. So if you could just unmute yourself and feel free to give remarks. All right, so we're trying to get Andrea connected onto our panel here. While we wait for her, I'm going to ask that we have Venice Whitaker from Council President Darrell Clark's office. Glad to have you on, Venice. You can unmute yourself and feel free to give remarks.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted there. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this very informative meeting. I didn't know about the companions group, the companion program, or the replacement through CARE. So that's really good to know. So again, thank you for doing this. Our seniors, as they're being considered right now, are very vulnerable, and they do need that extra support there. A lot of them aren't online as much as some of us, or very connected with IT. So definitely, hopefully moving forward, when we get more in-person events, that you all will be invited and included with that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Venice, and please send our greetings to Council President. We appreciate all the work that you all are doing in this city and for the Council President's Councilmatic District. We also have on today State Senator Sharif Street. So glad to have you on, sir. Feel free to unmute yourself and share with our group here.
Hello, how's everybody doing today? I'm sorry. Check my camera working now?
Yes, indeed. Good to see you, sir.
Okay, great. Well, one, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to participate today. It is great to be here with so many distinguished folks. And we're having a town hall meeting. I understand reaching out to our seniors for all of the various services that they need and that they have. And I think it's appropriate that our district, I'm getting some feedback. I'm sorry, I think we were logged on multiple devices. It was causing some feedback where I was. So I want to, so often our senior citizens are targets of fraud. They're targets of misinformation, and they are targets of all the kinds of victimizations that are just really unfortunate. And I'm glad that the district attorney's office has seen fit to have this program, reaching out to our seniors so we know, so they can know how to get resources and how to respond when people reach them. People work their entire lives, save up savings, and they should not, in their golden years, become be the subjects of victimization. And when they are, they need to understand how to address their grievances. And so it is really appropriate that seniors, that we do this particular outreach for seniors. And in the time of COVID, when people can't get out to get information, senior citizens traditionally were some of the people who packed community meetings to get information about what was going on. And we're in a stage and an age where they cannot necessarily get out to those meetings. It is really appropriate that we have this forum so that we can get people out and we can get the information to people where they are in a safe manner. And so, like I said, I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that the district attorney is doing this. And I'm glad that we're going to make sure our seniors, whether it's through scams from people who are saying that they're calling on behalf of their grandchildren that are away, or somebody who's trying to break into their door or waiting for them to get out, or any of the other kinds of things that happen, we're getting information to seniors. So whether it's a virtual scam or it's a physical, it's a plot to physically take something from them, we are making sure this is available. And I'm sure that there'll be some other discussions about making sure that we do things to appropriately redress elder abuse, as sometimes can be a problem as well. And so thank you, District Attorney's Office, for being engaged. And thank you to all of our participants who are going to share their particular expertise on how we can better serve and protect our seniors. So thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here with you and be engaged in this process.
Senator Street, thank you so much. Thank you for those words. Next, we have Patrice Jepson from State Rep Elizabeth Fielder's office. Feel free to unmute yourself and hop on the screen there.
Am I on? I can't, I'm seeing.
We can see you and hear you.
Yes, good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll put on speaker to do that. Okay. So on behalf of Representative Fiedler's office, I wanted to say thank you. This first term in office in one of the oldest cities, one of the oldest senior populations, and in a district that has a lot of low income older people. We have come upon and needed all of the services discussed today. And you are a lifeblood for so many people. I hope you're the lifeline. I hope you are thanked often enough. We can really see what you guys do all the time with our constituents. We refer to all of the things that were mentioned today regularly. The one thing that wasn't mentioned that I just wanted to bring up is that we see from the state office, we see like patterns. And one of the patterns that we have picked up in the last 2 years are these effective senior programs. For example, the city's senior freeze, property freeze, tax freeze, which is excellent in the payment plan. And the seniors pay that with the state property tax rebate. Works really well with the timing. But in the last 2 years, we've seen a number of seniors where their reverse mortgage company swooped in and was paying that tax without asking the seniors and then claiming a default on their houses. And Sherelle Parker did do some stuff, push some legislation to try and adjust that. And we have gone to the Attorney General to with every senior that's had this happen. It just made me realize everybody is working together. Everybody's working hard to do all of these things. But we're always responding to like these market vultures. We don't have anything to defend against them. And that just seemed really clear to me today, and that was helpful. It's not a question of the ball being dropped. We have this problem with our seniors potentially losing their houses. And it does look like there's something that's needed, perhaps some state legislation. But I got that because I listened to you guys today. So I'm going to pass that on to Rep. Fiedler, and I thank you so much.
Thank you for being on, and please send our greetings to the state rep. We also have Charlene Samuels from Councilmember Ellen Gim's office. Charlene, so glad to have you on. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you all so much. I just put in the chat, I really didn't have much to say, but I thank you for having this format to have discussions about quality of life issues in our communities, and the seniors are at the top of the list. And I'm realizing more and more that we do need to have more resources out here for our seniors. People are living longer. And at the end of the day, you know, one of the concerns that I had, but I know it was not a concern that was touched today, but it is the housing for seniors. And so I'm just hoping that we can change the dynamics of that in the city of Philadelphia. But thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Charlene, and please send our greetings to the council member. So lastly, I'll just ask each of our panelists just to give 60 seconds max final remarks in this order. Marielle Lorenz, Roger Moore, Officer Tracy Lewis, ADA Jim Delafiore, ADA Alex Blumenthal, and First Assistant District Attorney Carolyn Timmons.
Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this panel today. I've learned a lot from our other presenters, and I hope that those who are watching have been able to see that there is a concern with ensuring that older adults are living safely in their community, have access to resources that they need. And I hope that if anything, you see that there are folks here on this panel and in other organizations who are out there to help when a senior is experiencing trouble. And I just will say that if you need to talk with an advocate at CARI about any issue, you can call our main number at 215-545-5728. And thank you so much for this opportunity today.
I also would like to just thank you for having me. I think this was great. I think a lot of information was presented today, good information to help our seniors because they need help and we're here to help them. And working together, we can conquer a whole lot if we can just all work together for one cause, and that's the cause of trying to help our seniors with whatever problems they might have. So please feel free to call PCA at our 215-765-9040 and speak with someone about whatever situation a person might be in, whatever care, whatever services they might need. And with meals, meals are being delivered on a daily basis. New consumers are coming in on a daily basis to receive meals. So remember that number and please feel free to call. And thanks again for having me.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you also. I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of this. One of the worst things about this whole COVID episode for me is that our safety fairs are no longer, we can't do them now, our senior safety fairs, and I miss them so much. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of my job is just working with seniors. I love being around seniors. I just do. They're so full of life and energy. They make my day. So it's sad for me that I'm not able to do that, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to get all of this information out there, not just from myself, but from all of my colleagues as well, because there's so much information out there. And it's so important that everyone knows, even if you yourself aren't a senior, I'm sure you know someone who is, you have a neighbor or a relative or a parent. It's so important to know that there's resources out there, there's support out there, there's help out there. And if somebody needs it, they don't know where to begin, they can begin with me, they can begin with anybody who's on this panel today, because we all connect with one another, and we all work together, and one of us or all of us, somebody's going to find help for what it is that you need. So thank you.
Okay, yeah, I just was going to repeat our 24-hour hotline number where you leave a message, and within a couple of days, somebody from the private criminal complaint unit gets back to you. It's 215-686-9848. Like the officer was just saying a minute ago, even if you give us a call, reach out to us, and it's not an issue that we can help you with, we will refer you to the right city agency or the right police district or wherever that you need to go. So I hope you don't ever have to reach out to the private criminal complaint unit for any kind of misdemeanor that you feel was committed against you. But if you do, you've probably been referred by police officers, and you have our contact information. We will work to help you. Lamar, thanks for having me here today, and everybody be safe.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for having me. Thanks, Lamar. I just want to close out by saying how seriously the district attorney takes these crimes against the elderly. Unfortunately, it is a booming area of crime. As was said, people are living longer, but particularly the financial frauds are getting more and more prevalent. So we are working very hard to address those and to prosecute them. I would just close by saying, with seniors in your life, people you talk to, people who might have been victimized, I think the most important thing is not for them not to be embarrassed. This happens. Even First Assistant Temin was willing to share her experience with a fraud that was perpetrated on her. All kinds of people, not just seniors. And I think it's important that they should not be embarrassed and should do everything they can to report it. And to so that we can attempt to bring these perpetrators to justice. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say what a pleasure it was to participate in this program, and I hope I'll have an opportunity to do that again in the future. I hope that we've given important information to the public so that they can use that information to protect themselves in the case that they are victims of crime, and also to learn how not to be a victim of crime. One of the things I've learned from my participation today is that there is a necessity, particularly since COVID has prevented us from having group meetings and getting together in various places, to get information out to seniors who will not have the ability to use a computer or to have Wi-Fi, or perhaps even to have a sophisticated television. And I think we need to work on that. I think we need to figure out maybe a whispering down the lane kind of thing, where I want to encourage anybody who's listening to this program who knows a senior or knows seniors who know seniors to give them the information and tell them about the information, because I think by word of mouth is probably going to be one of our strongest ways and our best ways of getting information out. And the other we have to think of ways to do that, either by distribution of pamphlets or some other way that we can reach seniors who are not able to leave their homes. And I think that in the future, there will be more and more of us that will have to be reached this way. So thank you again for including me, and I hope we will go on to have many of these programs so that we can get this information out and so that we can prevent crime. I think if we can spend a little bit of our energy on giving seniors information so that they don't hire a contractor who's going to scam them, or so that they don't give money to somebody who calls them on the phone and claims that their grandson is in danger, that would be a big help. Thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our panelists. And thank you to our elected officials and their staff. Thank you to all of our stakeholders. Most importantly, thank you to each of you resident and community members for being a part of today's discussion. As all the panelists said, We hope that this information was helpful for you. On behalf of District Attorney Larry Krasner and the entire executive team here at the DA's office, be safe, and we wish God's blessings on you and your family. Peace.
Thank you. Everyone have a great day.
Yes, everybody.
Thank
Be
you.
safe.